Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to this really, really important topic Zoom. The topic is emotional eating, stress eating, what's going on, why are we doing it, what can we do about it? I would like to just preface this by saying that I have given emotional eating and stress eating workshops probably, I don't know, 40, 50 times in my life, but never has it been as relevant as it is nowadays with what is going on in the world. And, when I told people that it's more than ever, some people asked me, does it affect me? I said, yes, of course it does. And the first question that people ask me is, do you know anyone there? And my answer to that is that I do know people there. I grew up in Israel. I have some family there. I don't keep in touch with them, but that's not the point. I don't know anyone that was killed. I don't know anyone that's being held hostage. But A, as a Jewish person, and B, as a mother, when you hear these things happening to other Jewish people, and especially to children, when you're a mother, it it just, it can't not affect you. So for some people, food has always been their coping mechanism, turning to food, emotional eating, stress eating, that has always been their coping mechanism. And that's their go-to when they're stressed out or when they're emotional. And for some people, this is brand new. I have clients who I know them well and I know them for a long time, and they've never been emotional eaters. They've never been stress eaters, as far as I know. And all of a sudden, they're stress eating and emotional eating. And I'm hearing this 5 to 10 times a day from people, from clients, even from staff, from family members. I think it's affecting everyone. And we'll get into the why food specifically, versus other things. But I figured, since I'm pretty knowledgeable in this topic, and I have a lot of experience with it, both from all the workshops I give and from what I hear from my clients. I figured that if people can benefit from hearing some tips, hearing a little bit about it, maybe we can help each other to do better in this area. So I definitely, anything I say here is not meant to be judging anyone. It's not meant to be preachy. It's not, and it's not a manual, like here is what to do. Different things work for different people. So I'm here to explain it from my perspective. I'm here to give you practical tools to help you with it. Some tools you may like, some tools you may not like. Some tools will speak to you, some tools won't. That's totally fine. If you could just get one tool from anything I'll say tonight, that's great. If you could maybe understand yourself a little bit better, like why you turn to food or why in general it's an addiction, great. And if nothing else, it was just, an enjoyable educational evening for you. So I'm just gonna full disclosure, this is the first time in my life that I made a PowerPoint presentation. I have never used PowerPoint until tonight. I have never made a PowerPoint presentation until tonight. It was always on my to-do list, and I finally did it. So I hope it works and I hope it's good. I worked on it for a really long time, so let's try it out and see. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. Okay. Okay, can someone let me know if you see my slide? Because I don't know if you see my slide. Just someone say yeah if you see my slide. Do you see what I'm showing you? Oh, okay, I see it now. Okay, everyone sees what I'm showing you, right?
Perfect.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so here's our cover page. Okay, so I spoke about why it's the more challenging now than ever. I think another one aspect I didn't mention is that a lot of times when people are going through stressful things, they at least know what's going on. And I hate to use this as an example, lahavdil, chas v'shalom, but when I've had clients lose somebody, right? There was closure. They knew what's happening. They knew that they're grieving. This is the kind of situation, or not something so serious. Let's say they lost a job and they knew that soon they'll find another job. This is what makes this situation more unique than others is that we don't really know what's going on. We don't know what will be the end of it. We don't know what will happen to the hostages. We don't know what's going to happen. Are things going to get better? Are things going to get worse? Even for people with the most emuna, even if you have, like my 9-year-old is convinced that Mashiach is coming. She has such a positive attitude, right? Even if that's you and you're convinced that Mashiach is coming, we don't really know what's happening. So the unknown, the lack of closure. So like I said, my objectives for tonight are to define emotional eating and to understand it, to normalize it, okay? I'd like to make it clear how normal it is. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, so to speak. I'm trying to normalize it, to explain to you how common it is, how normal it is, and to give you clear, practical tips that you can literally pull out of your back pocket, so to speak, when needed. I use a lot when I do emotional eating work. I use cognitive behavioral therapy. I use that model from Judith Beck. And the premise behind CBT is that there's always a thought process in everything that we do. So there's no such thing as random. Everything that we do has a thought process. It may not feel like it, like when you're grabbing that cake or that cookie or that chocolate, it may not feel like there's any brain involved in there, any decision making, but there's always a thought process. So there are processes in our bodies that are automatic, like your heart beating, right? There's nothing you are doing for it. But almost everything else that is not that, and not our body specifically, but our decisions are based on thinking. So, you know, especially us as Jews, if you're from and you think about if something is milchiks, if you're fleishiks, or if something is kosher, or if it's a fast day and you don't just put food in your mouth. So you know that there's some sort of thinking process before eating. Okay, so I want to just define emotional eating. So emotional eating is eating for any other reason other than hunger. So an acronym for it is HALT, which is hungry. Well, there is an expression hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Those are all types of emotions that we eat for. And another one that I added to it is B, bored, just out of boredom. Now, I want to clarify, most people are never actually bored. I know that we're all busy all the time. Bored can mean mentally bored, which means that like there's nothing going on, nothing really urgent. Maybe you're bored, like you have nothing exciting to think about. You have dishes to do, you have laundry to do, but you're mentally bored. Like your brain is not occupied, you're not stimulated. And then there is the whole foodie, Insta-worthy, that reason that people eat. But other than that, it's hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and bored. Those are the main ones. And I like to call it the adult tantrum. If any of you have ever seen a toddler having a tantrum, it just doesn't look logical. Like all of a sudden they're kicking, they're screaming, they're saying ridiculous things, right? So I call it the adult tantrum because we are not going to kick and scream. I mean, at least not in public and at least not on a regular basis. So what we do is our version of a tantrum is just opening the cabinets and closing the cabinets and opening the fridge and rummaging through things and looking for things. So it's literally an adult tantrum. There are many, many triggers that we may not be aware of that I want to bring to your attention. So there are environmental triggers like seeing or smelling food. There are biological triggers like hunger, thirst, cravings, or for women, your monthly cycle. There are mental triggers like thinking about food, reading about food, watching cooking shows. There are emotional triggers, which we discussed earlier, like anger, sadness, anxiety, or frustration, or boredom. And then there are social triggers, like wanting to be like everyone else, someone influenced or pressured you, or FOMO, which is fear of missing out. Okay, so if it's so normal and it's so common, right, then why does it bother us, right? Why does it bother us? It's so normal. So why should it bother us? Why shouldn't we just go on doing whatever we've been doing and not let it bother us, right? So the number 8 out of 10, which I wrote on there, 8 out of 10 people are emotional eaters to a degree. I don't have statistics. There's no way to do statistics on this. This number is based on my own, what I've seen with people, that out of every 10 clients that I work with nutrition to lose weight, I find that 8 out of 10 people are emotional eaters. And yes, it's mostly women for 2 reasons. One is that men probably don't show it as much, so I wouldn't even know, or they wouldn't admit it. And 2 is that women are around food more, and women are just more emotional. There was a study conducted. I don't have the name of it, but it's in the Judith Beck book, if any of you really want to read up on it. And concern about weight ranked as number one on many people's lists, higher than job concerns, money concerns, and even marriage and divorce concerns. So we all care, not all, most people care how they look. So if emotional eating, overeating, stress eating had no consequences, right? You could do it and there would be no consequences. It probably wouldn't really bother us, other than the fact that like it doesn't feel good not to be in control. But this is something that we, so to speak, wear on ourselves. There are many addictions that people have that they're able to hide, at least for a long time. Someone could be a gambler or a drinker or whatever it is, and they could hide it, okay, to an extent and for a while. As opposed to when someone is an emotional eater or a stress eater, they usually do end up gaining weight and they, so to speak, wear it on themselves. So it's harder to hide. It's also very often related to self-worth, especially in certain communities or cultures. I am refraining from naming which because I did that on one Zoom and then I got a lot of flashback, like, why did you mention my community? And then I said, is it not true? And they said, well, yes, it is true, but you shouldn't have mentioned it. So I'm not naming names. I'm not saying which communities. But if you know, you know, okay, there are certain communities that place much more value and worth on looks and body size more than others. We don't like to feel like we have a loss of control. Like I said, even if there were no consequences, even if you never gained an ounce, it doesn't feel good not to have control over your actions and your food. And many health issues are blamed on weight, whether or not that's true. So someone overweight will go to the doctor and complain of a headache or chest pain or exhaustion, and automatically, without any blood test or any examination, the doctor will say, you need to lose weight. So it's almost like shameful, we get blamed for it. And then certain health conditions are caused by the fact that someone is overweight. So then we deal with guilt, like, oh, I caused it on myself. So you could see why, even though I'm saying it's normal, I'm saying it's common, and I'm not just saying it to be nice, it is normal and it is common, but there are reasons why this bothers us, and they're very valid reasons. I think we all could agree that food is a drug, okay? Now, why this specific drug? So first of all, we are conditioned since we're very, very small to associate food with comfort. So you get a boo-boo, you get, oh, you have a boo-boo, here's a candy. You went to the dentist and you were brave, ironically, here's a candy, go get more cavities, right? You did well on a test, let's go out to eat. You didn't do well on a test, let's go eat, right? You're happy, let's eat. You're sad, let's eat. And this starts in childhood. So we're almost conditioned to be like that. And even for those of us who realize it, myself included, we repeat the cycle and do it to our own children. If you think I don't do it to my kids, I'll tell you that I do it to my kids. I try to catch myself and stop myself, but of course I do it to my kids. It's automatic. Food is cheap. Okay, drugs are expensive. Even cigarettes are expensive these days. Alcohol is expensive. Gambling is definitely expensive. Food is cheap. Well, maybe not these days, but cheaper than other addictions. So it's easier to have. It's accessible. You don't have to go to the liquor store. You don't have to go to the drug dealer. You don't have to go to the casino. Just go to the grocery. Okay. We need food to live. Other things we don't need to live, but you can't survive without food. Food also has the element of instant gratification. So other things you may take time, to kick in or whatever it is. Food is instant gratification. It hits your palate, it hits your mouth, instant satisfaction. Food is also the only addiction that people, without realizing it, literally encourage us to keep going. So I'll give you a scenario, which many of you will relate to. So say you're sitting at a wedding, right? And you're not eating because you already ate dinner. You don't want this oily, whatever, catered food at 10 o'clock at night. And you're just enjoying yourself. You're schmoozing with people. Maybe you're having a little wine or water or whatever. And at least 5 people at the table are going to say, why aren't you eating? Eat. Why aren't you eating? What's wrong? You're on a diet? Why aren't you eating? Right? Now, flip the scenario around. Let's say you're at a wedding and you're sitting at a table where people are eating nicely with a fork and a knife and, enjoying it normally. And you're that one person that's like stuffing your face with a lot of food and asking for doubles and triples. No one says a word. No one says like, hey, why are you eating so much? Or, hey, are you okay? Why are you taking triples? No one says that. But when someone's not eating, the whole world comes together to encourage them to eat. you know, or think of your bubby that tells you like, eat, 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 or your parents that tell you to finish your plate, or your friend that knows you're on a diet and says like, come on, let's just have a little ice cream. It won't hurt. It won't kill anybody. So this is the one addiction that people, without realizing it, literally keep encouraging you to have. So I once met on a Pesach program, Dr. Ellie Perlman, who's a psychologist. And I said to him, and he deals with addictions. And I said to him, is food the hardest addiction to treat and to get rid of? And he said, absolutely not. He said there are definitely harder addictions. So I found that very encouraging, because I would think it's the hardest since it's so common. Okay. A lot of people are quick to think that they're binge eaters, and they call what they do binging. And is it the same thing? So definitely not always. The one way to tell is if you can list what you ate, then that's not a binge. Okay. A binge is literally a food coma. You have no idea what you ate. If I paid you $1,000 to tell me what you ate, you'd be like, I wish I could take your $1,000, but I can't tell you what I ate. Okay. Why does it matter? Who cares what it's called? The reason it matters is because when we label ourselves or other people, we or the other people act accordingly. So if a kid is misbehaving in school, or rather, a better example, a kid is not paying attention in school. Okay, so the kid is not paying attention in school. Let's deal with it. You don't need to call it ADD. Okay, he's not ADD. Or if someone likes their desk very neat, he's not OCD. Okay, he just might just like his desk neat. Once you start labeling yourself or others, you start acting to that extreme. So they both can look like what I said about an adult tantrum, but a binge is a food coma, okay, as opposed to emotional eating or stress eating, which just means you had some extra food. So don't be so quick to label yourself. So I spoke about a bunch of things that are the psychological of it, and now I'm going to talk about the physiological of it, okay? The reason it's really important to know when it's physiological versus psychological is because physiological is a lot easier to fix than psychological. If I go to the doctor and I have a boo-boo on my hand, even a big boo-boo, it's always easier than if I have mental issues or emotional issues. That takes a lot more time and a lot more care and a lot more delving in, as opposed to a physical issue. So I'll tell you what I mean. Okay, I'll give you my favorite analogy. So I'm on the phone with my friend and I'm telling her how every time I walk to Toro College on Avenue J, I'm such a klutz. I fall, I trip. It's so embarrassing. Everybody laughs at me. I'm such a klutz. Why do I always trip when I go to Toro College? I must be a klutz. And she tells me, wait, do you walk down East 18th? And I'm like, yeah, how did you know? And she's like, you're so funny. It's not you. There's like that tree branch over there that is just like, they're not cleaning it up. And like anyone who walks there and trips on that tree branch falls. It's not you. It's the tree branch. Walk down East 19th next time and you'll see. And I'm like, really? So then I walk down East 19th the next day and I'm like, oh, I didn't trip. And it's like, oh, so I'm not a klutz. Okay. It wasn't me. It was the street I was walking on, right? So what does this mean in terms of food? There are certain foods that without realizing it, you eating them, it's not your fault that you're addicted to them. They are addictive foods. Manufacturers, they know this, okay? So they literally put these, so to speak, legal FDA approved drugs into food. And these types of foods definitely affect how you're feeling, how you're craving, and it's right here on the slides, okay? A lot of these foods release serotonin, which is a chemical that makes us feel good. So we know we literally crave things that make us feel good. Stress and lack of sleep definitely contribute to hunger. And for anyone who's in the situation now, whether you live in Israel, whether you live here, whether you know someone there or don't know someone there, I think everyone is walking around a little bit zombie-ish or a lot zombie-ish because everyone is getting much less sleep. Okay, so I gave you some examples on the slide, and I'm gonna, if anyone sends me their email, I'll definitely send you all these slides so you have them. So sugar, salt, and fat are all trigger foods. Artificial sweeteners are all trigger foods. And they're all listed on the slides. When you look at ingredients and you see corn syrup hydrogenated oils. These are all trigger foods. So you could easily avoid, like to use my analogy, walking on East 18th and just stay away from these specific foods, and you'll have such an easier time. And like I said, the physiological is a lot easier to fix than the psychological. Okay, so how do we fix it? So there's one thing on a property of foods that is not listed on the label. I wish it was, but I gave you a good website, which will be on the slides, where you can look up the glycemic index of any food. So glycemic index is a measure, it's a number of how quickly or how slowly our blood sugar spikes when we eat certain foods. So if it's under, if it's 55 or less, it's considered low, which is good. If it is 65 to, I'm sorry, 56 to 69, it's medium. It could go either way. And if it's 70 to 100, it's high. Most likely it's going to make us crave, spike our blood sugar, and make us want more. So I'll tell you some surprising ones that you may have thought of as diet foods because they're low calorie, but they actually have really, really high glycemic index. Corn cakes, rice cakes, granola bars, cereal bars. When you eat those foods thinking you're eating a diet food, you're correct in that you're eating less calories, let's say, than cake, but you are spiking your blood sugar and you are almost bound to want more and not be satisfied with just one portion. Another thing is, on my plan, I do put in a treat. I work on a treat. We work out a certain amount of calories that the person can have if needed. That treat could be junk, and it's always in the evening. The reason for that is because when we have sugar or artificial sugars or these things earlier in the day, we will absolutely crave more throughout the day. Okay. Now, I want to teach you how to differentiate between hunger and emotional eating, because sometimes we're truly physically hungry and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. That means that we need to eat, but there are very, very clear ways to know the difference between the two. Okay. So actual hunger is gradual and is not urgent. Emotional hunger is very urgent and sudden, and it cannot be satisfied with food. So I'm going to show you the graph on the next page. Okay. So it literally compares emotional hunger and physical hunger. So emotional hunger is sudden, like you're sitting and you're fine and you're talking to someone and all of a sudden, like you need something, right? As opposed to physical hunger, which it's 12:30, 1 o'clock, your body knows it's lunchtime, you start to get a little hungry, it's gradual. Now, the next one is really, really, really interesting to note, and it's one of the best ways to tell is emotional hunger is food specific. I need ice cream now, as opposed to physical hunger, which is not food specific. I'm hungry. I would take tuna. I mean, I guess I could take ice cream. I could take tuna. I could take a sandwich. I could take a salad. I'm hungry. It's not food specific. Emotional hunger comes with an upsetting emotion. Physical hunger does not. Emotional hunger is absent-minded eating. You're just numbing your feelings, as opposed to physical hunger where you are present. Emotional hunger, you don't stop eating even when you're full, because that's not the reason you started in the first place. Whereas physical hunger, you eat until you are satisfied, until you're full. Emotional hunger very often comes with guilt, and physical hunger does not, because there's nothing wrong with eating when it's a mealtime or when you're hungry. So this is a great way to know if you are eating out of emotions or out of physical hunger. Okay, so now that we basically explained in short what emotional eating is, how normal it is, why it bothers us, the difference between emotional eating and a binge, emotional eating and hunger, the physiological of it, the psychological of it, I want to tell you some of my top tools. I have a lot of tools. When I give emotional eating workshops, I think I have like 30 tools because there are so many. But for the sake of this, I chose some of my favorite and top tools that are proven to be effective. Not by me, by real people and actual clients that have done it. Now, I want to say something, that no matter how good the tool is that I'm going to give you, tools are band-aids, okay, so to speak. They stop the bleeding, okay? They're not the long-term solution. They're just a band-aid or crutches or to stop the bleeding. So I know that sounds depressing because you thought that I'm about to give you like lifelong solutions that as long as you do them, you're good. But these are the reason we need to stop the bleeding is so that we can fix what's wrong. Okay. If you keep emotional eating and don't have your band-aids or your crutches or whatever it is, you're not going to be able to focus to fix what's wrong. Meaning emotional eating comes from emotions. We need to work on the emotions, right? But until we're ready to do that and until we're in a good place and in the moment, we need these tools just in the moment. I have to shut off my alarms. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. So also when we have tools that we're successful at, we feel empowered. So I'll just give you a quick analogy. So if you know me, you know I love analogies. And even if you don't know me, in these 28 minutes, you probably heard 5 analogies. So you know I love analogies. Bowling. Okay. I went bowling with my kids one summer, and my she was like 6. Now she's 9. I think she was like 6. She kept missing. She wasn't able to get the ball centered, and it kept rolling to the side. So the guy that worked there, he was very nice. He's like, "Do you want me to give you those? I forgot what they're called. You know, those things that make the ball not roll to the side. You know, I don't know what they're called. If someone knows, you could tell me. I forgot.
The kitty thing.
The what?
A kitty.
Yeah, but
bowling
there's
thing.
a name. There's a name
Well,
for it.
bumpers. Bumpers.
Yes, yes. Bumpers. So I forgot for a second that I'm like the mom of little kids, and I was like, no, that's a cop out. They should learn how to bowl. We don't want to like baby them. And then I'm like, wait. Like right now is your chance that they're either gonna hate bowling forever and feel unsuccessful at it and probably not want to go again, or make them feel successful and then they'll keep practicing and then they'll want to go. So I always think of this with tools. Like I'm giving you tools that if you're dealing with emotional eating and you don't have tools that you could do and work, you're just going to be like, this is who I am. I'm an emotional eater. Like whatever, like it is what it is. Like I can't bowl, so to speak. Right. But if you have tools that work for you, okay, because I'll give you a few and you'll choose what works for you, then it may be bumpers, so to speak, like in a bowling alley, but it will make you feel successful. It will make you feel empowered and you will get better at bowling, so to speak. So think of these tools that I'm about to give you as a little toolbox that you have. After this workshop, you will know how to utilize these tools and they're yours in a toolbox to pull out as needed. So one of my tools is kitchen time. What happens in most households is that the kitchen becomes a lot more than a kitchen. It's not just a place where we eat and where we cook. It's a place where we do homework, where we do regular work, where we congregate, where we hang out, where we have difficult conversations. So I always tell people to try to do things where they belong, like homework at a desk, or schoolwork in an office, or hang out with family in the living room, because a lot of emotions go on in the kitchen. I had a client that used to take a parenting class over the phone, and she would find herself sitting in the kitchen when she was taking this parenting class. And every time they said something that triggered her, that made her feel like she's not a good mother, or that she has so much more to go before she could be a good parent, she would turn to the food. Or I've had clients that are always on shidduch calls for their kids and they're in the kitchen and it's stressful. I'm not at that stage yet, but from what I hear, shidduchim are stressful and those phone calls do not belong in the kitchen. So whatever could be done outside of the kitchen, do that. The next tool is exercise. Not because you will lose weight from it, because you will not lose weight from it. Okay. Exercise does not make you lose weight. If you don't know that yet, then now you do. But what it does do is that it releases endorphins. Endorphins is the feel-good hormone. You only need to move for 20 minutes and you have feel-good hormones all day long. This is not a myth. This is not something that they tell you to get you to go to the gym. This is real, okay? So anything, you could walk, you could jog, anything. As long as you move for 20 minutes, you will be in a better mood the entire day. When you're in a better mood, you're less likely to eat over your emotions because you're in a happier state of mind. It also puts you in the right mind frame. Like, okay, I worked hard, I spent time at the gym, or I woke up early or whatever, let me not mess it up with food. Okay, the next one is getting enough sleep. So let's go back to the toddler tantruming for a second. For those of you who have toddler kids or grandkids, you know that a lot of times the reason they're having a tantrum is because they're exhausted. Okay. When we're exhausted, we're not different, except that it's not socially acceptable to kick and scream and throw ourselves on the floor. But what is acceptable is to rummage through cabinets and freezers and bake a cake and eat a cake and open things and eat them. Okay. So in order to avoid those adult tantrums, we really, really, really need to get enough sleep. The next one is hugs and physical touch. Okay. So physical touch increases levels of dopamine and serotonin. These are two things that regulate your mood and relieve stress and anxiety. I have a client that does not hug her children ever. She obviously, there's issues there. She doesn't hug them. She doesn't like to be touched. She doesn't like to touch. And she told me that with everything that's going on now in Israel, it's very hard for her. I know some of us take it for granted. It's so easy. Just give a hug. It's your kid, it's your whatever. It's very hard for her. But she said that automatically she felt the difference in her mood from hugging people. The next one is timing is everything. So like I mentioned earlier, if you are going to indulge in that sugar or artificial sugar or chips or whatever it is, at least do it at the end of the day versus the beginning of the day. I know it sounds crazy because like usually on a diet, like no, don't eat late at night, but a portion treat is better for your blood sugar and your cravings at the end of the day versus earlier in the day. Okay, the next one is called the delay method. So I want to say something about the delay method. Out of anything I've ever posted, if you follow me on social media or my WhatsApp status, you know I post a lot. I probably post too much, but I post a lot. Out of anything that I've ever posted, the most feedback I get is about the delay method. I have people that come up to me on the street and they're like, you don't know me. I follow your status. 3 years ago, I saw your thing about the delay method and I've been doing it since and it changed my life. I literally have random people telling me this all the time. So what is the delay method? Okay. So again, let's talk about the toddler. I know it always comes back to the toddler because honestly, we're not different. We're just grown up, but we have the same issues as toddlers. We just show them differently. So back to the toddler. You come home and the toddler is having a tantrum. He wants candy now, not it's not wants, he needs, but whatever. He needs it. He wants it now. Okay. If you're going to say no, right? You're a responsible mother. You're not just going to give in and give candy anytime. But if you say no, his tantrum is going to get worse. Okay. So yeah, you did the right thing. You're the mom. You said no, you're allowed to, but his tantrum is going to get worse. If you say yes, his tantrum will quiet down, but you're creating a spoiled brat. And in a few years, he's going to want the car. And in a few years, he's going to want 3 cars. And you're just raising a spoiled child. So you can't just say yes, right? So what should we do? Like we can't say no. We can't say yes. So what should we do? So the best thing to tell a toddler is, and when I say toddler, I mean us as well, soon. Okay, soon. You want candy? I know, I hear that. Yeah, I get it. Okay, you know what? We're gonna go take off your shoes and wash your hands with soap and call grandma and tell her about your day, and then we'll talk about the candy, right? So it's called the delay method, okay? And what you did is you distracted him. Most of the time, he's gonna forget. 9 out of 10 times he's gonna forget because he moved on to something else. So you didn't spoil him and you didn't make the tantrum worse. So because we have to be our own parent, right? Because we're grown up now and we have to be our own parent. When we just give in, it doesn't feel good. It goes against our goals. It goes against what we want to do. When we say no to ourselves, we feel even more deprived and more angry and the tantrum gets worse. So the delay method is a beautiful balance because it just pushes it off. Okay. So it's not no, it's not yes, it's soon. Okay. The next one, prayer. It should have been the first one. But prayer. I don't think an explanation is necessary. I think now more than ever, it's one of the only things that we could do and should do. So prayer. The next one is something that I talk a lot about, and everyone thinks they don't need it, but everyone needs it, and that is time alone. There are many people that never get 5 minutes alone, and it's important for many reasons, but since the topic here is emotional eating, I'll explain it like this, okay? When I'm working with a client and we're analyzing what she did that week and how she ate and what she ate and why she ate and whatever, and I ask her, like, I don't understand, like, you were having such a good day, like everything was great, like your breakfast, your snack, your lunch, your water, everything was great. You even exercised in the morning, like what happened? Like, and she's like, I don't know, and we start talking about her day, and it almost always boils down to, not in her words because people don't realize this, is when everybody, the whole world needs a piece of you, right? Like this one needs that and that one needs that, and a neighbor on the block had a baby and wants you to cook dinner, and your husband's coming home late and bringing someone, so you have to make something and make the house look nice, and guests want to come for Shabbos, and the neighbor is ringing the bell, and your daughter is doing homework and she's just driving you crazy with her homework. You're torn in a million directions. So you can't run away, can't go on vacation, right? You're not going to smoke, you're not going to drink, you're not going to do drugs. So what you do is you turn to food, because food basically just shuts everyone up, right? It just shuts everyone up. It shuts everyone out. It just like tunes you out, numbs you, numbs your feelings, numbs the noise, right? It just like really, like what you want without realizing it is you just want everyone to shut up for a few minutes and leave you alone, right? But you can't say it, or you don't even know that that's what you want. So you're just food, 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 because it'll just distract you and shut you up. So what I tell people is before this happens, don't wait until this happens and then say, time out, I'm going to have 5 minutes alone. Don't do that. Do it even beforehand, right? Like give yourself the medicine before the issue even arises. Like I have migraines a lot of times, and one of the things that I found very helpful for me is when I feel it even coming on a little bit is I take a Tylenol then, and that's the only way it helps me. If I wait until my migraine is bad, nothing helps. But if I catch it before it even starts, like I know it's coming, then like let's say it's raining and I know I'm gonna get a migraine, so I take a Tylenol beforehand. So it's like that, like there's basically a migraine is coming on, especially if you're a mom in the afternoons or you're hosting a lot of people. So 5 minutes alone, find a place in your house or go to your car, even sit in the driveway for 5 minutes alone. It makes a huge, huge difference. The next one is the what else list. So we mentioned some things, but other examples are a bath, venting to someone, a book, music. The what else list means that when I feel anxious and tight and like wound up and whatever, what am I gonna do that's not food? Okay. So what I listed there are relaxing things. I want to say that my client gave me such a great idea once. She said that her kids are little. She's not going to go take a bath. She can't leave them. She needs to watch them. She's not going to go call a friend. She doesn't want to be on the phone when she's watching her kids. She's not going to read a book, right? And music, like she's not turning on Uncle Maishi, like the kind of music that she would relax to. She doesn't want her kids listening to. So she found that what she does is she has like nervous energy. So she cleans. Okay. Now, most of us would be like, huh, that's not relaxing. It's true. It's not relaxing, but it gives her something to do with her nervous energy other than eat, eat, eat. Okay. So the what else list is a list that you need to think of and come up with and utilize. Okay, for those who know me, you know I got my love of my life baby puppy. I'm joking, he's not the love of my life, but like he's the love of my life pet. His name is Major. He's adorable. He is under a year old and he's tiny. And I always know that he brings out like happy hormones in me, but I started reading up on it when I was preparing for the Zoom. And there really is research on it that whether you have a pet or you want to get a pet, they actually do bring out your happy feelings, especially because you get to take care of something else. The next one is parenting ourselves. So I mentioned it briefly, but talking to ourselves, like telling ourselves, not now, soon, you don't need it. And I want to say that the number one thing to tell yourself all the time is this. Actually, I'll say it with giving an example. A few years ago, someone that I knew was very, very sick. She's my age. She was my age. And it hit me very hard because she was my age. And a lot of my clients knew her also. And people were like literally coming into sessions and telling me that they ate tubs of ice cream and bags of chips because she's so sick and she's not doing well. And I said to them, I said, listen, I'm very stressed out about this also. I'm very emotional about this also. But no matter how many bags of chips and no matter how many tubs of ice cream we eat, it's not going to help, right? If I knew that if I ate all the ice cream and chips in the world to make this woman get better, I would do it. I really would. But no matter how many chips or ice cream we eat collectively, she's not going to get better from that. We can daven, but eating chips and ice cream won't help. So I try to remind my clients this, and it's something to talk to yourself about. Right now, we're all stressed about what's happening. Everyone's worried, everyone's anxious. But no matter how much we eat or what we eat, we can't help the situation like that. Nothing will change from us eating. So what happens is when we stress eat and when we emotional eat, we didn't get rid of our problem. We now have two problems. We have the same problem we had before we started eating. And now we have an additional problem that we feel gross, we feel bloated, we feel sick, we have heartburn, we're mad at ourselves, we feel guilty. So all we did was we didn't even get rid of one problem. We just created another problem. Okay. Now I know I'm going to get slack about this. I always do. But I'm going to say it anyway because it's totally true. And that is that if you want to trade one addiction for another, okay, or one bad, I'm not going to call it addiction, don't get addicted to online shopping, but one bad habit for another, online shopping is actually very, very effective. And I'll tell you why. Distracts you, just like food, okay? It's returnable. When you eat food, unless God forbid you throw it up, which don't try it at home, don't do it. You can return what you bought, okay? So you still get the high from it, and whatever, the feel good of buying new things, and you can return it. Also, there's the whole anticipation of getting it, right? Meaning, even if it's Amazon Prime or whatever, even if it's Instacart, there's that waiting period. Like when you put food in your mouth, there's no waiting period. It's instant. When you wait for a delivery to come or an order to come, there's the anticipation of getting it. And a major difference between online shopping and food is enjoyed once. You finish that cookie, the cookie is done. You cannot enjoy that same cookie again. If you got shoes or a bag or a belt or anything, a scarf, even if you don't need it, right? You could wear it over and over and over and over. So online shopping, again, if in case you missed my announcement, I'm not saying this is a long-term solution. I'm giving you band-aids. Online shopping is an amazing band-aid, okay, for all these reasons. Okay, this is a great acronym that I once heard on a podcast. I wish I could credit who I heard it from. If anyone knows, let me know. But caress. Caress is, if you could just mute yourself.
Whatever. It's good.
If everyone could just mute themselves because I can't X out of this. Okay. Caress means communicate alternatively. It stands for communicate alternatively.
Weet risico.
Okay, sorry. I have to figure out how to mute this. Hold on a second. Okay.
Dat gaat alleen maar goed.
Okay. So caress stands for communicate alternatively, release endorphins, and self-soothe. So communicate alternatively, release endorphins, and self-soothe. These are all things we covered, but this is a great short way of putting it. Now, I'm gonna say that if you make a decision, right, that you are, okay, these tips and tools sound nice, okay, it would be nice to conquer your emotional eating one day or to taper it or to get it a little under control. But right now, you don't care. You want to eat, okay? Whether it's in the moment, whether it's in the week, like you just want to eat, right? So I'm going to say that if you're going to do it right, okay? I know it sounds crazy. Like, why would I tell you to do it? Because I'm not here to tell you what to eat or what not to eat. I'm here to help you have tools in case you don't want to do it. You have tools not to do it. But if you're going to do it right. And what I mean by that is that have something that you're going to actually enjoy. Always sit down when you have it. Never eat standing. don't have any guilty feelings about it. Don't obsess over it. Don't overanalyze it. Don't talk about it. Don't dwell on it, and move right on. Meaning, just because you had something at 8 p.m. does not mean that it has to continue into 9, 10, next week, after Shabbos, after Yom Tov, after the war in Israel ends. It does not mean that. Okay, move right on a minute later. Okay, but if you're gonna, I call it like, if you're gonna cheat, cheat like a mensch, do it nicely. Okay, so I see I got a bunch of messages here. Let me just take a look, and then I'll open it up to if anybody wants to say anything. Okay, what's trigger? Someone said, what's trigger food? Trigger foods, I'm gonna email the slides to whoever wants, and it lists it specifically things with high fructose syrup, corn syrup, a lot of artificial sweeteners, and also when something has a lot of ingredients and you can't pronounce them. Thank you so much for, okay, that's okay. Bumper, yes, thank you. Those are the names of the bowling things, and mute ourselves. Okay. Okay, now, does anyone want to ask anything, share anything? Just unmute yourself if you would like to say something.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
My internet went bad when you gave the bowling analogy. Can you repeat it once more, please?
Sure. So I said that when I went bowling with my back then she was 6 years old, and she kept missing the, I don't know these words, like when the ball's supposed to go centered, and she kept missing and it was going to the side. So the guy that works there asked if she wants bumpers to help her for the ball not to go to the side. And originally I was like, no, let her learn to bowl the real way, like, and then I realized that she's going to feel discouraged and she's not going to bowl again. So I was saying that a lot of these tools are not for long-term solutions, but they're to empower you so that for the short term, you can make some practical, tangible changes. And then you'll have the headspace and the empowerment to work on yourself even more. Someone asked, what happens when I tell myself it's not good for me? I'll regret it, but simply ignore myself. Okay, that's a great question. So, I mean, toddlers ignore their parents, and when we're acting like our own parent, we could definitely choose to ignore ourselves, but there is definitely something to repeating something over and over and over again. Okay, so I wouldn't give up on it. I would keep saying it over and over and over again. I would even hang up some sort of saying or some sort of quote inside the Nosh cabinets, on the fridge. It doesn't have to be obvious. It could be in code or whatever, but the more you say it and the more you see it, the more it's gonna drill into your brain. Someone said, does drinking water help with emotional eating? So it doesn't help with emotional eating. It helps with physical hunger, because a lot of times when we have what we think is hunger, it's actually, we're just thirsty. But what it could help with is if you think of someone that quit smoking and instead they do the, gosh, I really don't have my words today. What's it called? The fake cigarettes, vapes, right? The vape. So they could even do, let's say they have a fake toy cigarette that they're just going like, right? Like the hand to mouth motion, right? So a lot of times when people are emotional eating, they just want to go like this, like the hand to mouth motion. So sometimes just having free vegetables or even like a drink with a straw, whatever is in that drink, will kind of like give us the sensation or the feeling like we're having something, because we just need that like replacement, like the hand to mouth motion. What's the way to get the slide? Okay, so I'm going to give you, I'm going to give everyone my email address, and you can email me subject line slides from Zoom, and I will email you all the slides with all the information. So my personal email address is Tanya, Tanya, at nutritionbytanya.com, Tanya@nutritionbytanya.com. So just email me saying slides and I will send it to you. This is a great question. If these are all band-aids, what is the solution, or is there not any? It's a very good question. It's very hard. I don't want this to come across as like depressing, but most people who turn to food, who are emotional eaters, who are stress eaters, will always, to a degree, have that tendency. But by doing something different again and again and again and again, they will feel empowered and they will have better tools to handle it. Now, whatever is causing the emotions needs to be dealt with, because no matter how good our tools are, if we don't if we don't deal with our emotions, it's always going to surface again. But by doing something over and over again, meaning let's say you take one of these tools, like let's say you do the delay method over and over and over again. So now out of every 100 potentially binging or emotional eating or whatever episodes, you only gave in 97, you gave in 3 out of 100, and 97 times you stayed strong. That's
Every
amazing.
single time is a victory.
Yes, 100%. Well said. Exactly. Every single time is a victory, 100%.
Can I ask you something? Can you
Sure.
hear me clear?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a very interesting way of I guess everything is in the mind. Your tips are great and whatever you spoke is great, but I don't want to hear answer it now that you should come for sessions, because this is not the answer. I need a better answer. I've been already by sessions. I've done dieting ever since I remember myself. I'm 45. I married 3 kids. I'm in the mood of just, I always dieted, and I was a size 4, 6 as a child. As a girl, big girl as a Kala, I'm now like the 10, 12. I am in the mood now of just not having that pressure. I was dieting all the time until 2 years ago when I married off my son. And then I really, really, I exercised every single day. I dieted a ton and I lost very, very gradually. And everything I ate bothered me and my stomach bothered me and everything was like so sensitive and everything because I lost weight. But once I gained my weight and I'm like full and I just feel more comfortable and I can eat as much as I can and as I want, and I have the energy for the day because I have like 3 or 4 jobs plus I'm a mother. I'm
Sounds like
running a
you're
very
very
busy day.
happy. It sounds like
So
you're
my
very
question is, how do I approach myself? I know deep down it bothers me, but on the other hand, I'm like, I can buy new clothing. And now when you said about going online shopping, I was thinking of an analogy that I always think like, one day I'm gonna go on a diet, so let me enjoy myself now. That's the
okay.
solution.
So it sounds like you're very happy with where you're at. It doesn't sound like you have an issue.
I feel horrible in my looks and my weight, and that I feel like I'm carrying someone else's body, but I'm like fed up of dieting.
So
I try,
it could be that when you did diet, it sounds like it was a little bit on the extreme side, like always exercising, staying away from certain foods. Like when people do something extreme, they get burnt out. That's applicable to anything. I have clients who, while their kids weren't married, they made 5-course meals, 8-course meals, different things for different kids. They like this, they like that. The second their kids are married, they're like, okay, that's it. I'm not cooking anymore because they're just burnt out. You could get burnt out from anything. That's why when
True.
someone is dieting, like if you've been on my plan, my approach, like almost everything in moderation so that people don't get burnt out. I mean, I'm not saying they never get burnt out. I'm saying they're less likely to, and it takes longer to. And if they get burnt out, we'll work out a planned cheat. Like if any of you saw my status today, on my status, I wrote that I'm looking for the best cheese pretzel in Brooklyn for a client. Okay, a client of mine, a man, we had a deal that when he gets to 200 pounds, he lost like 60, 65 pounds. When he gets to 200 pounds, he's going to have a cheese pretzel. And I said, I'm going to help him find the best cheese pretzel in Brooklyn because it's going to be worth it. So I'm telling him to go have a planned extra so that he doesn't get burnt out. Because if I would say, no, never again, you're not touching cheese pretzels, you lost 65 pounds, of course he would get burnt out. So it
I
sounds
once heard you saying
burnt out.
that you shouldn't reward yourself with food, so that's why I'm also like discouraged from dieting.
You
I'm
could
never going to be
reward
able to
yourself.
reward myself with food, then
You could
I
reward
might as well
yourself.
enjoy the food now.
You could
Yeah.
definitely reward yourself with food, but like I said, you got to do it like a mensch, and it's everything in life is in moderation. Like let's say someone is on a budget, they could occasionally buy something that normally they wouldn't, but they can't go crazy. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to get to the next question. Maybe do
Okay,
intuitive.
thank you.
No problem. Maybe do an intuitive eating approach. I mean, it's like a whole separate discussion. I think that these days we're honestly too busy and too hectic to be totally in tune with ourselves, like eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. Our lives are very hectic. Most people don't even know when they're hungry and when they're full. It's almost like saying like, drive intuitively. There are roads on the rule for a reason. You see, I can't talk. Rules on the road for a reason. If I'm healthy for the most part, is it okay to emotionally eat sometimes? So again, emotional eating itself is, if it doesn't bother you, then it's okay. It's not something like, I don't know what, it's not illegal. It's not, if it doesn't bother you and you are happy with doing it and it's not affecting your health, 100%. If it's bothering you, if you're gaining weight from it, then do it less often so that you don't gain weight from it. But I don't think it has to do with the health aspect. I think it's more like if it bothers a person or not. Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Yeah, hi, I have a question.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Trani. I don't know if it's directly connected to what you were saying, but I did listen to a lot of your webinars and I was part of a few groups already and I got a lot of skills and I actually lost weight, I think in a very healthy way. But every time I lost weight, I somehow felt uncomfortable until I let myself gain the weight back, until I got back to my original weight. And then I lost weight again.
Okay. Uncomfortable. Did people make comments or like just you yourself?
No, just for myself. I'm like, no, this is not me. This is not where I'm supposed to be. Now I could just eat.
So, I mean, it sounds like self-sabotage almost, Like, let's say someone gets a promotion that they really wanted and like they have a great job and whatever, and then they go do something wrong at work because it just doesn't feel right to have that position, I think it's very psychological, it's also like feeling like we deserve something. Like sometimes, I don't know you well, so I can't tell you, but sometimes people feel like, oh, I don't deserve this. Like, why should I deserve, I'm older, I've had kids, like why should I need to be skinny? I don't deserve it. Or, what's wrong with being bigger? Or, for some people, losing and gaining weight is that's their emotional eating. They distract themselves from real life by being busy with gaining weight and losing weight, so that they're busy with that instead of.
No, I'm not very obsessed about it. And I'm not talking about a lot of weight. It's like 5 pounds up and down.
Right. Right. I mean, I don't know you, so I don't want to like say a generic thing, but I do think that people self-sabotage a lot with whatever it is. It could be a job, it could be a relationship, it could be weight loss. I think it's a psychological thing to self-sabotage. Maybe you just need to come to terms with, to accept yourself even when you're at a lower weight, to say, I deserve it. I worked hard at it. Again, I don't know you, so I'm like literally like randomly saying things, but okay, let me see. There's another message. Thank you for the suggestion. Intuitive eating approach. I like the idea. So I don't think, I mean, unless you're talking about the comment, I didn't say anything about the intuitive eating because like I said, I don't think that most of us have the headspace or time in life to truly be intuitive with ourselves. We run around all day, we do a million things, we don't even realize that we skipped a meal and then it hits us later. So to really be intuitive with yourself, you have to have a calmer lifestyle than we all lead. So I'm not a huge fan of intuitive eating, happens to be, so it's a whole other topic. So again, my email is tanya@nutritionbytanya.com. If anyone has any comments or questions, feel free to email me. And also, if you'd like the slides from this presentation, which, like I said, it's my first time doing PowerPoint, I'm happy it worked out, and I think they were very clear. So if anybody would like me to share, I'll be happy to, because I worked hard on them. So I'm happy to use them again. Thank you, everyone, for the nice messages with the feedback.
Yes, this was terrific. First time I got on, and I have to tell you, I was able to relate to very many of your things. I loved especially your comparison chart.
Oh, thank you. The
Emotional eating and regular hunger.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad it resonated with you. And that's something that I could email you and you could have it.
Hi, Tanya. Thank you so much for this.
Nice.
I was like, I don't need it. And I read it. I'm like, that's me. That's me. Oh, I'm not a binge eater. I'm an emotional eater. And I feel like I need to print your slides and post them on my refrigerator.
Do it. Totally do it. Fridge, inside the Nosh cabinet, like Put it in there. Yeah.
And it's perfect for Shabbos because that's my trigger-ish. Like that's where I'm going.
everybody's right. So everything I'm saying now, it always applies. But the reason this workshop is so now, like, for these times is because everything is on times 100, like emotional eating, stress. It's just times 100. Like whatever it was before, this is like a whole other level. So I hope that we only hear good news in everyone's personal life and in the world in general. We should only hear good news. And really, what I'm thinking now, that like our, problems with emotional eating, stress eating, too much eating, like compared to what people are going through, this should be our worst problem, really. We should not know from their problems. How to keep it up in the car? Keep what up? The chart? Keep what up in the car? Rifki, let us know, because I don't know what you mean. How to keep what up in the car? I don't know. But if you're talking about a chart, can I hang it up?
No, the tips basically, if you have any tools when driving, when you're driving a long route, a long journey.
Oh, yes, I have a great tip. Disassociate, because people associate driving with eating, right? So you have to literally disassociate. You tell yourself, I'm going to go on a drive and I'm not going to do what I usually do. And you do it once, you do it twice. And then in a year from now, if I tell you that you used to eat when you drove, you'd be like, really? I did? Because like the longer you don't do something, the better. But another tip is to put the tempting things in the trunk, okay? Or in the back seat. Don't have them where you're sitting in the front. In the front, if you really need, like, let's say you need to stay awake or you really are hungry, baby carrots, cherry tomatoes, things like that. Not chips and pretzels. I mean, maybe within a plan, but not like junk. Thank you, Mimi, for the feedback, and whoever else wrote. So yeah, so we should only hear good news, and this should be our worst issue ever, really, because, in comparison to everything else, I think we're okay. And I wish everyone good luck, and feel free to email me, and have a beautiful, wonderful Shabbos. And thank you, everybody, for joining.